I think there's just a huge gap in education. So we want to come in and say, look, it doesn't matter what background you have. You don't need to know anything about sustainability. You can work at one of these companies that are really trying to change the world. Everyone taught me how to make money, how to work in finance, how to work in consulting and whatnot. I was just really not interested in that at all. And I came across this topic of social entrepreneurship, which basically just means doing something good through business. Just almost being like completely naive and just completely not ignoring, but like tuning out other people's opinions on what you're trying to build. I mean, at the beginning, I wasn't making any money. For the first 8 months, I built everything for free. People are like, this doesn't make any sense. If it's job search, if it's starting your own thing, becoming a freelancer, or making a career change, it's very overwhelming. And I'm also the first person who's trying to do it all on his own. Mm-hmm. And then realizing like, wow, there's so many amazing people around me who can help me with this and who are happy to help me.
Hello everyone. Today I have here with me Tim Steppich. Tim is the CEO and founder of inClimate.com, the largest platform dedicated to the climate sector in Europe. Whether you are a job seeker, an employer, a founder, or an investor, inClimate.com has become the go-to resource for professionals in the climate, boasting more than 30,000 members lately, which is huge. Nevertheless, Tim was also recognized by Forbes as the notable one of the 30 under 30, which is by itself a remarkable achievement. I couldn't be happier enough to have you here with me. Tim, thank you for being here and welcome to Run Chico Sober.
Thanks so much for having me, Jaime. I'm really excited.
I have so many questions for you, and I want to really dive deep into your platform, into the climate sector, how we as an individual and also as a society can make this even more reality and help the earth, right? Because I think this is the main topic. But before I want to start, I want to understand, how did you come back, or how did you come up with inClimate.com?
So actually it just started, I think 4 years ago. I was studying still, working a little bit here and there. And I went to business school. So everyone taught me how to make money, how to work in finance, how to work in consulting and whatnot. I was just really not interested in that at all. And I came across this topic of social entrepreneurship, which basically just means doing something good through business. So like using business as a force for good. Mm-hmm. That was the idea. There was a few books about it. I ended up writing my thesis about it. I got really excited about it. And then I went deep down the rabbit hole and I started making my little lists of like, what is social entrepreneurship? What are these sectors within social entrepreneurship? And then came across climate, healthcare, education.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, these are kind of the areas. Just kind of my German brain was trying to rationalize, like, how can I be a social entrepreneur? And then I came across climate, and it was an energy crisis at the point, and also because of the pandemic, eventually then...
That was back in 2021, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess that journey started 2020, 2021. Mm-hmm. And then eventually this climate sector, because of that energy crisis meets a pandemic, that sector just became huge, and everyone suddenly started talking about climate. There was some communities popping up, there was some LinkedIn posts popping up, and I was like, what is this? What is this all about? And then I started creating my lists basically for myself of climate tech companies in Europe. That's the buzzword, is climate tech. These days everything is tech, but yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then I just created like a really bad, like a Google sheet first, and then eventually I shared that with some friends. They were really interested in it as well because they were looking for a job in the space. I was looking for a job in climate, and then I just published it. And I thought, why not do my research in public and share it with everyone? And so you can just imagine, yeah, I just for myself created this really bad website with a list of companies where other people could add their company. That was kind of how it started, yeah.
That is great. I think you launched your website in the first week of February 2022.
Yeah.
And then you were saying that you launched this really raw website with just some data.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. How did your community receive this website, this one shit website.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, there was not even a real community, right? It was like you said, like a pretty bad website. And I created a LinkedIn post, I think 5 months before that website actually. And I said something like, oh guys, I'm going to build something in climate. I'm not finding these resources. Add your email in this waiting list. And then like, I'll let you know when this exists.
Oh, wow.
And then when the first landing page was up, just everyone got an email like, hey, created this. And I posted it on LinkedIn. And then I just try to post on LinkedIn every day and somehow recycle the information from that database somehow. Like, here's all the companies in energy. Here's all the companies in nature. All the companies focused on fashion. And so kind of, posted that. And I was like, which companies are missing? And then people would comment like, oh, this company is missing and that company is missing. And the post would sometimes go viral and suddenly a lot of people were seeing them, clicking on it, and that's how it started.
It was like crowdsourcing. So you were relying on the community as well to give you input, because at the end it's just you.
Yeah.
In order to get all the information.
Exactly.
This is great. Why did I ask about your website and not saying that it was I said that it was raw? It's just because most of us, when we want to start something, we want it to be perfect.
Yeah.
And we want to wait for the perfect moment, which sometimes it never happens, and we end up never starting anything.
Yeah.
I guess my question here would be, how do you deal with perfectionism in launching something or in going after your dream?
Yeah, I think perfectionism and entrepreneurship is a very difficult combination. I think I'm the stereotypical German myself who always wants to do everything perfectly. And over the last 2 years learned that that's a really bad idea. So I think the best thing to do is just launch a really, not a completely horrible product, but just to do something the best you can, like the most MVP, like minimum viable product you can build. Some people talk about minimum lovable product, like what is something that people can get excited about. And then get feedback and then build from there. So in my case, I was lucky that I didn't want to make money with it at the beginning, so I didn't overthink it. So I just posted this really horrible website. And it's been the same for the last 2 years. Like, have learned that you should just try things really quickly. Like I basically, sometimes you even end up selling a product that doesn't even exist yet. And you just sell it to test, is there even a demand for it? Because why build the perfect product if no one's going to pay for it? So I think you can almost go the complete extreme and say, look, here's the product we're building, who wants to pay for this? And only when people pay for it, even start building it. So I think, it's important to shift your mindset a little bit there and do the complete opposite of perfectionism and look at it more from a business standpoint first. And then if there's a willingness to pay, then you build the thing that people have paid you for.
Well, this is great. It is putting your foot at the door.
Yeah.
Start with something. I think this is so interesting, I know so many bright people that would like to start something, but they are always waiting. And even me, when I wanted to start this channel, I wanted to be perfect. And I was waiting for the perfect moment, and I ended up just putting it out there. But if we keep waiting, or if we keep not trying or not counting as well with people to help us, it won't be out, right? And I think that comes to the next question, to a follow-up question. It will be, how did you manage to build up a community with 30,000 members without any funding?
Yeah. I think, it kind of plays perfectly in the last topic. Like, I mean, the first thing you do, right, is you validate you're actually working on something that people need and care about. So I guess that was validated then by
action, guys, because then you guys gonna learn. Watch and learn, and let's do it all together.
But yeah, like put it out there, realize that, wow, like thousands of people on LinkedIn are clicking on this and tagging their colleagues or tagging their friends who've been looking for a job in climate or who are in the textile sector. And now we posted here are the textile and fashion companies in Europe or the startups trying to make the textile and fashion sector more sustainable. And so there's clearly some interest and need, and I didn't find anyone else doing it. And then so I just had a lot of fun with it. It was building a puzzle kind of. I'm a big fan of puzzles. I used to play chess. I'm really into these things. So I was like just really excited to build something. And then, just like started with that basically one feature, which is a company directory. And then just based on what I thought people were interested in, I started kind of building it out. Like at that point, people could see the website, but there was no user profiles. I had never built a website in my life. I think when I was a kid with my dad, we worked on some random website, but he did most of the work. And so I just found some projects that looked similar to what I wanted to have. And I talked a lot about it. Even before I launched it, while I was still working at an investment fund, I talked to people about it, like the idea of it. And then people say like, oh, you should talk to this guy. He's built that. And then they introduced me and I had calls and I was like, I don't know how to code. I don't know how to build a website. And then I got introduced to the world of no code and how to build something without knowing how to code, and how sometimes you might just have to research a weekend on a topic and then you can actually build it. And so, it's kind of been 3 years of just learning little things along the way, how to build a website, how to build email campaign. I started a newsletter, which is probably the best known thing of everything I do. That's kind of my top of funnel, like where people first hear about the platform or about me. Kind of a personal brand on LinkedIn. Suddenly 20,000 people follow me on LinkedIn. I still don't know why really, but
you're a top voice.
Yeah, and then suddenly LinkedIn sends me an email. They're like, you're top voice now. Okay, great. That's awesome. But so it was really like, it's a difficult question to answer for me because like, it was just like building things continuously. It took a while to get to the first 1,000 users. And maybe it took a year or so. And then because people were excited about the product, they were telling other people about it. There was not even a feature to refer a friend or invite a friend. Just people told each other about it and about the newsletter, about the website. And then, I kind of through word of mouth, more and more people kept on showing up. And then eventually the numbers would double again and double again and double again. And suddenly it went faster and faster because you have that network effect of more people being excited about what you do, telling more friends, them telling about more friends. And so now I guess when someone in Europe mentions that they want to work in something in climate or sustainability, or they want to do something with more purpose in their career, then a lot of people are like, oh, you should check out this website. And so, that snowball effect kind of came in. And of course, like consistency just for 3 years, like continuously putting content out there. I write a weekly newsletter. So every week, every Tuesday morning, I need to show up, send out that newsletter, post on LinkedIn almost every day, or at least I try to, and just be consistent.
How do you get the content for posting weekly on your newsletter, on LinkedIn? Because this is a lot as well.
Some of it is quite straightforward, where my newsletter is literally called Last Week in Climate. So it's just a summary of everything that happens in climate. So I still, to this day, sit down every Monday. I read the news. I have some sources that I automatically kind of get summaries from every week. And I just kind of make a little selection of what's important, which companies are new, which companies got funding, etc. But by now, there is these 30,000 members who can all add to it. So basically, there's a weekly suggestion of events, and anyone can add an event. Anyone can upload news on the website. Anyone can add their funding amount on the website. So now you have people actually knowing about the newsletter and adding news on the platform. And I often have like PR agencies from different companies send me emails like, hey, we just announced this funding. Can we be in the newsletter? And I'm like, yeah, of course, just add it on the platform. And so now the community and the members actually co-create the content.
This is great. This is amazing, actually.
That makes it a little easier for me. But it's still a lot of work. It's still a lot of work to get people to start adding content. I think even now with 30,000 people, there's probably maybe 100 people who are very active and who really are engaged and add content. But most people are just reading the digest and they're just happy they get information. But it's still a lot of manual work. So once a week to sit down, skim through everything and think about what's interesting. And it's kind of maybe you or some people listening know the Google's newsletter. It's called Too Long Didn't Read, TLDR.
Yeah.
Like about tech news. So it's the same approach. Like, let's just make it really simple, not write a lot of random things that people are overwhelmed, because there's so much content out there. I was like, I want to, among all the climate newsletters, I want to be the one newsletter people read because it's easy to read. And you can just click on the things that interest you rather than reading like pages and pages of content.
It's like concise information.
Yeah.
And in a dynamic way.
Exactly.
How do you see that your website has evolved till now?
Oh, so much. I mean, yeah, imagine literally, I think it was a homepage with the idea kind of summarized. Me building that as well with a website builder that allowed me to build it, not knowing how to code. So the design was pretty horrible. And then there was one page with the company directory. And then, I mean, design-wise, you can imagine, I don't know how to choose fonts. I don't know good color combinations.
Look and feel, the whole look and feel of the website.
Exactly, the whole look and feel. There was no brand. I mean, it was a project at that point at best. It had a different name as well. And then from there, it just went feature by feature. I think that's advice that I get a lot and that I always tell people as well, like, build a feature rather than trying to build a company from the start. Just build a feature people love and then expand from there. So in my case, it was a company directory first. Then I started writing the newsletter that people got really excited about and shared with each other. Then we built a job board and said, okay, we have all this company information. So it's really easy to just add some jobs to it from a data standpoint as well. It's very easy. And let's just let companies add their jobs. Then I realized no one really posts jobs, like no one takes the time. And so then I started figuring out, okay, how can we automatically scrape these jobs? And it kind of went step by step. I was manually running some automation every week. Then actually a guy here from Barcelona, from Spain, helped me automate all of that. And then we built it into an automation where we scrape all the jobs from all these companies in Europe automatically every 24 hours. And it just kept on adding to it. User profiles, a feed where we post updates, a news database, an events database. And it kind of went step by step.
It's a whole community.
Yeah, exactly. And then just sometimes building something and realizing no one uses it. And sometimes building something and realizing, oh, this is actually great. Yeah.
It's testing and evolving and improving,
yeah,
I'd say. But I did my registration, for instance, in the job board. Because I was like, okay, let's see what is around in the climate and where can we find. I found it really interesting, right? You can find jobs by your role. You can also find by the country, whatever, if you want to do remote, hybrid, or inside. So did you receive any feedback on that? How is it going? Are people posting? Are people getting hired? Is it a hope for people to get hired and to get more jobs in climate for them?
Yeah, for sure. I think it depends a little bit on the background that companies are hiring for and from the background someone's looking for. So there's some roles that companies really struggle to fill. And so if you have that background, like, it's an amazing kind of place to get into. And it's kind of almost like a no-brainer to start working in that space. But then for some other backgrounds, it's very competitive. Like a lot of people with a marketing background, for example, want to work in climate. And then if your skills don't speak for themselves, it's a very competitive field. So it's so-so. It still kind of depends. If someone has a really good background and the right motivation, and I think a lot of these companies hire for values, so they want to hire someone who believes in the same things, then I think, anyone can work in climate, really. We often don't hear about it. So we just kind of provide the platform, and then we don't want to keep the application on the platform. We send you to the website of the company, and you can just apply there because it's hard to standardize it. And so often we don't know. And then sometimes, like, someone writes me like, "Hey Tim, I just want to say, like, I got a job through the platform 2 years ago." I'm like, "Oh wow, cool, amazing." So we're still struggling sometimes to really get to know about all the use cases. But I just hear now always left and right from, "Oh yeah, a friend of my friend, oh my cousin got the job there." But often, unfortunately, I don't know. And kind of same goes for the companies. We really need to, like, check in with them, and sometimes we don't know. Or I have a sales call with someone, with a recruiter, and they're like, oh yeah, we actually booked the call because a year ago when you started this, or now 3 years ago when you started this, we hired one of our employees to your platform, and she just told us, and so that's why we booked the call.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I did some comparison, for instance. I went on LinkedIn and I tried to find for climate and sustainability, and it comes tons of jobs. Because of maybe the semantic, it's not necessarily climate or sustainability. Whereas in your platform, it will be only jobs in climate. So I managed to filter that and see whether I could find anything or not. But what does categorize a job in climate?
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, that's actually going to. I think a lot of people actually struggle understanding that. Yeah. So we always classify it in like two ways. There's a climate job and there's a sustainability job. So sustainability job is what everyone thinks a climate job is, and we also have those posted. That is your sustainability advisor, or you help a company internally with their sustainability. So sustainability management, life cycle assessment, measuring the footprint of a product or service that you're providing. That is like a sustainability job. And that is usually at a bigger corporate or an SME. And it's an amazing job to have, of course, like to help a big organization shift towards net zero. But what we are especially focused on is what we call a climate job, which is any job: marketing, sales, chemical engineer, electrical engineer, software developer, but at a company that at the core of what they do, they're developing a climate solution. So it could be, we came up with a new fabric that now Patagonia can use in their pullovers, so that you can just kind of throw them in the trash and they're fully biodegradable now, and things like that. So it could be Beyond Meat, alternative protein companies. It could be a startup coming up with a way to recycle batteries. So it's just these companies coming up with really cool, innovative solutions, and they're hiring all kinds of roles. So we want to come in and say, look, it doesn't matter what background you have. You don't need to know anything about sustainability. You can work at one of these companies that are really trying to change the world. And that's kind of the message that is hard to bring across, because everyone thinks they need to now study sustainability to work in the space. And we're like, no, actually, just like set up a job alert, put in your background, where in the world you want to work, and then you get an email from us the moment there's a job that matches you. That's kind of the idea.
This is great. If someone wants to get in the climate industry, in the sector, right, and they are looking for a job right now, is that the advice that you would give to them? Is there anything else that you would advise them to look for or to do?
Yeah. So that's a great first step to see what are the jobs out there already right now that match my background and maybe also the place I can work from. But I think there's a lot more to it, because sometimes you need to be a little bit more proactive to find opportunities, especially in that space. So I think the first thing is just to read like 1 or 2 books. There's a great book called Speed and Scale by John Doerr, and it breaks down the climate sector on a napkin, very simple. So that's a great book to start with. And then there's from very stereotypical from Greta Thunberg. She has a book called The Climate Book, and it's just a collection of research from very different perspectives on what is the climate crisis, how did we get here, different solutions, different topics, and getting an understanding first of what is this even about.
Educate themselves at least in the core, right? A little bit. Get this proactive and educate.
Doesn't mean that you need to become now an expert in waste recycling, but just getting an idea of what is this universe of climate, what is out there. And then I think the third step, and probably the most important one, is just like networking and getting to connect with people and starting having conversations like we do now. Because then, I don't know, you have a basic understanding, you've read 1 or 2 books, you can maybe find already a passion within that. Climate is very broad. Like we have it right now classified in, I think, 120 subsectors. So I talk about it like, it's like digital transformation for sustainability. Like all these sectors are trying to reach net zero, and now there's a bunch of companies helping all these sectors. So it's really broad, and it can be really overwhelming. But maybe you'll already see like, oh, I'm actually really into fashion. So how cool would it be to work for a company revolutionizing the fashion sector? And then go figuring out, okay, who are these people working in that sector? And that's also why we kind of turned into a community. and not just a hiring platform. Because I think no matter if you're looking for a job, or also if you work at one of these companies and you're just trying to do better work, or if you're an investor investing in that space, if you're a founder trying to build something, like the main factor that you will be successful is knowing the right people, right? And having people know about your work. And
I think this is where the community gets in as well, because then one can help each other.
Definitely.
And also, we always learn by watching other people or what they are sharing.
Yeah.
It's like, this is how I learn a lot, actually.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Miming what they do. What are the challenges that they will face? What are the challenges that someone wanting to get in the climate sector should be aware of or will face?
I think right now, depending on someone's background, it can be very competitive. Like a lot of these companies, they have a great mission. And so often, without even having good marketing, a lot of people know about these companies. I mean, I think in Barcelona, Eura Foods is a great example, right? Like that really went through the roof. And now, of course, like everyone who's into veganism, has been vegan for a while, maybe works in marketing or sales and is thinking about where could I really use my skills for something good, that is an obvious choice. Oh, that would be so cool. I can combine my passion and my professional background. But of course, there's a lot of people thinking the same thing. And then it's, I guess, hard to differentiate yourself. And that is definitely something where I also think community is important and getting to the right people and getting in the right room and not just being another applicant on LinkedIn where everyone just like quick applies these days. So I think that's a big one. And maybe a second one that comes to mind is that just the sector changes so quickly. Like there is the topic of geoengineering suddenly, meaning can we put some chemicals in the sky to basically dim the sun, so that way we can also mitigate climate change and whatnot. And there's different theories and topics coming up all the time, new battery technology, then there's a new startup there. So I guess it's challenging to keep up to date on what's happening. And it can be very overwhelming. And I think maybe more broadly, job search is just very lonely. Like sitting in some cafe or at home and just writing your CV and like sending it everywhere is very frustrating. So
a little bit of anxiety as well.
Exactly. So that's where like in the community, we have like a weekly job search check-in and people come in and they talk about what they struggle with. And then we try to figure things out together. And people, I try to give as much advice as possible, but then other people jump in like, oh, I also want to work in data engineering. Like, have you seen this research or have you seen this publication or this little article? What about that company? And so then, I think that's how we try to kind of overcome this loneliness in it, like create community and peer support and have a almost like in a running club, right? You share a hobby. So we're kind of trying to create a movement of people who share the passion for climate. And then with people going on hikes together and people are doing yoga together in Barcelona. And then they chat maybe casually afterwards for coffee about, actually, I'm thinking about this sector. And then that's how, I hope that people then find their place somehow.
No, this is great. The community, as you said, and I saw it was 135, your last newsletter, where you guys went to the hike. You look really cool, guys. But that brings me to another question. With all this new technology, is the technology nowadays a blessing or a villain?
Yeah.
How do we see technology nowadays?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an absolute tech optimist. I'm guilty of that. Having worked quite a bit in the startup sector, I think tech can really change the world so quickly for the better or for the worse. I mean, social media is an example for both, maybe. In the case of climate tech, sometimes it's not clear. Let's say you're like one of these e-scooter startups. And now you're telling everyone, like, they are telling everyone, oh, we're changing the world because now everyone is gonna be commuting with these e-scooters instead of taking their car, and they will be then eventually all charged by renewable energy, and they have this beautiful idea of like a world that's greener. But then someone actually digs into it and they do research and they realize, oh, actually, people stop walking and taking the bicycle or taking public transport and instead take these e-scooters. And actually, they're not really powered by renewable energy. And so now actually this has made the world a bit worse. And so sometimes it's really hard to tell when a startup starts working on a solution, like, are they really making it better? In most cases in the climate sector, I would say it's pretty straightforward that they're building a great solution with a great impact. And then it's just, they need a lot of scale in order to really have an impact. Like if we all stop eating our burgers and we all buy Eura or Beyond Meat, that has a huge impact, of course. So I would say yes, absolutely. They're changing the world, but it's not everything. Tech is not everything. Consumer behavior, as well as just regulations coming in, new laws that really drive then changes. I mean, it's an ecosystem after all. So it's a complex one. But yeah, I think tech is really at the forefront of testing something and building things that corporates and SMEs are not building. And then the corporates hopefully and usually come in and they buy up these companies and now they do it at scale, right? So yeah.
Is there anything that you see that could help this environment or regulate this to be more used for good, let's say?
I think climate just, it lacks, so I always think like everyone's talking about climate and I talk about climate jobs and climate tech and I just think that, oh, everyone knows about that. But actually it's a bit of a bubble, right? Of people who have worked in startups, people who have worked in tech. I guess the big mission that we all have and that we have is always this, like, how do we make this mainstream? Like, how do you make everyone demand their employer that either you change something, either my big corporate or my big SME, either you do something different or I'm going to leave. I'm going to work for a different company and I'm going to work for a climate tech company, or I'm going to work for another corporate that is actually delivering on their net zero goals and whatnot. So I guess people underestimate the power they have as a collective by looking for purpose in their meaning, looking for purpose in their jobs. And I think just for people to educate themselves and come together and somehow slowly apply pressure on companies to little things like turning to veganism, stopping buying Coca-Cola, stopping going to McDonald's, buying textiles that are 100% one materials, all these little things. Yeah,
I think that goes with I wanted to ask this so much. How we as individuals can play our part, or what can we do, right? How can we play our parts and how can we do it in order to make the world a better place?
Yeah, one for me, the obvious one to mention is your career. I mean, you spend most of your life working, so might as well work on the solution, right? Then work on someone who's not part of this, working for someone who's not part of the solution. The second thing is...
So looking for meaningful jobs that will do better in the world instead of just working for anything.
Yeah, either changing your career to a company that does something good, or staying at the company you're at, but internally mobilizing people and figuring out ways to even just start little initiatives that can maybe change that company from the inside. Maybe that company can support these other companies that are doing all this important work, but just like becoming an advocate, almost like an entrepreneur. I think it doesn't mean that everyone needs to quit their job and work in a climate tech company, but figuring out you with your skill set, with what you're passionate about, where could you play a role and play a part and make a little difference. And if everyone did that, and if everyone was aligned on that, then that has such a gigantic snowball effect, right? So that's, for me, the first obvious step. But then you can go further as well. I mean, your purchasing behavior, of course, how you consume food, fashion, travel, all these things. And then the thing that's, I think, quite overlooked is where you invest your money. Like, if you're doing well, you're comfortable in your job, maybe you don't find a way in your company to really make a difference, and you're like, oh, what can I do? Like, you can still make sure your money is invested in some of these solutions, in the right companies, and take your money out of companies that haven't set net zero goals or haven't delivered on their net zero goals, which obviously gets very complex, and that's where you need to do a lot of research. But there's some great, as well, organizations popping up, helping consumers, taking their money out of the wrong companies and putting it in the right companies. And then conversations like this, right? Like listening to podcasts and educating yourself, reading books. Yeah.
No, my main goal for this conversation, I think, would be, there are a lot of people like me that we are very interested in climate, but we don't know much. So I hope that this can be an entry step for all of those interests, and know a place or a platform or a community for them to connect and to research more jobs or to do something more meaningful that can help the world. But I think that also goes connected to, are governments and businesses really caring about the climate, or could that be mostly greenwashing? How can we also observe that and be an advocate of it?
Yeah. I would say it varies a little bit where in the world you are. I think in the EU, we sometimes underestimate how much we really do on a political level and how much we drive forward to the EU. For instance, now with the carbon tax, meaning any company worldwide selling products to Europe needs to pay taxes on the carbon produced in the process of making the product, which has that amazing ripple effect of suddenly all these Chinese companies, Indian companies, American companies having to actually think about their footprint. And now they're incentivized to reduce it because they will have to pay more money if it's higher. So we as the EU, I think, are doing quite a lot of amazing things that sometimes it's easy to look at all the things we're not doing yet. So yeah, something to be kind of excited and optimistic about. I would say not everything that has happened in climate is out of the goodness of people's heart. I sometimes wonder, does it really matter as long as they're doing it? Sometimes it might be just that they're incentivized because they're realizing, hey, this is a great business opportunity. And that is actually the ideal scenario, is that you don't need to convince people that something is the right thing to do.
Okay.
But you need to just make sure they know it's a great opportunity. And then the moment it's a great opportunity, that's when it really becomes mainstream, right? And so it's hard to say sometimes what, for example, alternative protein was, of course, a consumer trend. Oat milk, it was just something that there was demand for it. And then, of course, this supply, you start with supply and you create more demand, and there's this play there. So sometimes it's just a great business opportunity. But then that creates that snowball effect again. And then more companies get excited about it and they jump in, and investors jump in, and some of them might be super philanthropic and they just want to change the world and make it better for their children and their children's children. And some others are just like, I just want to make money and this is a great opportunity. And I think that's fine, as long as it leads to the right thing. I'm always wondering, like, how important is the reason for doing something good?
As long as we are doing
as
something.
As long as we're doing it, because it's very urgent that we do
as
something.
As long as we are doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How can society foster people to look more into the climate, or how can society foster for us to grow on that?
I think there's just a huge gap in education. I never learned anything about climate tech, working in sustainability, or anything like that. I did 2 bachelors for 4 years. I did a master for 2 years. And I really had to proactively look for what was labeled as social entrepreneurship. It was really hard to find, even like doing anything good with my career. So I wish I would have learned about some role models in social entrepreneurship while I was in high school or while I was studying. But yeah, I think that can have such a big impact. But I think that's really changing as well. Like, I once did a project in Haiti, and we were in a school, like helping a school build a classroom in Haiti or Haiti, and they gave a morning speech to students. They're like between 4 to maybe 15 years old. And suddenly one of the students starts talking about how they need to make sure they collect plastic and be more aware of the environment. They were learning about that in school in the middle of nowhere in Haiti, and in a super impoverished area where people were living in self-built huts, really. No lights at home, no electricity. And they were talking about this. I was like, wow, like, I don't know. That's always for me an example of how this is really changing. And my brother-in-law's children and my sister's child, like I can really see how education is shifting. But I think that's a huge thing. And so also for us as the grown-up generation, that I'm putting together a list of like influencers in sustainability. There's not that many. And I find that it's not really cool yet, and we're not sending each other all these cool ways how we can be more sustainable, right? I think it's really far from mainstream. So, that's maybe not the government so much, and rather us as individuals and the private sector. But just like thinking about, I love thinking about systemic change. Like in my case, how can I provide a platform that lets people self-organize a community where people come together all around the world and they connect around this topic of sustainability, and they come up with ideas and they find new jobs and they build new companies, rather than saying, I'm going to host an event every Tuesday and I hope some people show up. So I guess governments need to think about like, what is this systemic way to really create change, and where can they best flip the first domino, so to say, that then you have that ripple
the
effect.
fundamentals, it is educational. Besides everything, it has been changed, as you said, and then there's a lot still to do. But if that is taught even more in the schools or in the universities and in the jobs and in the companies, like there are so many companies that they could host these kind of things, right? Having this green channel or these kind of things and make it really popular. Do you hold high hopes with the climate and with the sustainability?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit of a naive optimist. I love focusing on solutions and good things that are happening, because in the end, it's all you can do. Of course, sometimes you'll have to read some of the news where you realize, we kind of messed things up already pretty badly. But even if we did, like, let's say we knew, we already way past the tipping points and we'll have huge problems over the next years. And we already do. As Spain saw last year as well with Valencia. But then we still need to come up with solutions. And climate change is about mitigating climate change, but also adapting to climate change. And for me, I love just focusing on, okay, what can we do to now, solve this problem, even if we solve it too late, even if we don't solve it. We should have solved it decades ago, really. But instead, I love just focusing on the great things that are happening. And that's the one thing I can do, is I can come in with optimism. I can get people excited about being part of the solution, rather than talking about the problem all day, and like all the things we've done wrong. And that's not going to inspire people, I think, and motivate people. So like in my newsletter, you will rarely see like, we reached this tipping point now, or, this coal plant is coming up again. I love just highlighting all the good things that are happening and all the progress and focusing on that instead. So I think, to come to your question, I think we just need to focus on the solutions and the things we can do, no matter how late we are on delivering on them.
If we focus in the solutions nowadays, and the world going through so much change lately, especially with the U.S. election, right? This is complicated, but Trump getting in the power, and he is pushing back so much in climate, especially with those famous words, right? Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
What does that mean to us, or what could be a solution that us as a community or a society or even the European Union or all the rest of the world could do?
Yeah. I asked this question. So we had a call this week, and as I think highlighted before, I'm a very optimistic person. And I always try to look for the silver lining. So even if something goes wrong in like business, I'm always like, okay, what is the opportunity or what's the learning and what's the good thing here? So with the new election, it's kind of the same for me. I'm waiting for like, what's the silver lining somehow? Maybe we all uniting around that problem of this massive political shift. Also, my home country in Germany at the moment, with Elon Musk supporting the right wing, like very extremist party, and them getting ridiculous results in the elections. And that's maybe an opportunity for democracy to actually reevaluate what's been going wrong. If it's all just always going great, maybe we get too comfortable and maybe we don't come up with innovative solutions because we think we're on track. And I think this is a good reminder, maybe trying to find the silver lining, that we need to stick together and come up with things to make things better. And so I hope that there's a good outcome from that. But of course, right now it's so easy to be like, oh my God, this guy just came in and he's killing all the work that has been done these last 4 years, and we're back to square one. But I think the private sector as well has a lot of power. There's a lot of other people in the public sector have a lot of power, and this is a great excuse to do even more. Like when the pandemic started and people came up with different solutions to help each other, to protect the elderly, get other people groceries. It's almost that analogy. Like, how do we now make sure this doesn't happen again? How do we create a better democracy and make sure, democracy means that a lot of people are agreeing with these parties and these opinions, right? So it's a problem. So we need to come up with a solution. So hopefully that's the silver lining.
I think there's a lot of things. There's more to do with marketing and confidence when speaking than actually with other things. But this brings me with a very interesting thing, right? Initially, I would ask, do we have high hopes, or what are we expecting with that? But then, throughout this conversation, we talked about how we as an individual, what we can do, how we as a society, how we can foster these groups. And when I saw that Trump was elected, I felt concerned. I got apprehensive because either we like it or not, it affects the whole world, right? But let's not forget that this is one country. It is a very powerful country, it is, but it is one country. And aside of this country, we have so many other countries. And we have so many unions that we could be doing something, that we could be playing our part, that we could be choosing different products, that we could be choosing voting or getting united, or starting a movement, or starting a channel, or starting influencing, right? As you said, because this is a niche that still needs to grow. If we get together in working towards to the good, I think we could have a really powerful movement towards this. And yes, I do believe that we got comfortable because it was all getting kind of well. But him being there, it's spread in our face the differences in between what we believe and what some other people they do believe. And if it is so clear that there's this difference, it is also so clear that we have a lot to do. And that if we get together, we would be able to finally do a very palpable, let's say, change in the world.
Definitely, yeah. Couldn't agree more.
I think this is really interesting. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't it? Tim, if you could meet the Tim from 4 years ago, before inClimate.com, what would you tell him?
I think believe in yourself. I think it's very powerful to just have a crazy idea and to recklessly work at it. And I think it took me a lot of years of imposter syndrome to actually be like, hey, I have reason to be confident. Like, I've done great work, and a lot of people are benefiting from it, and the planet is benefiting from it. It's just, I think when you're like starting your first company, you've never built anything, it's really easy to be overwhelmed and to think like, oh, I can't do this. Like, that's crazy. So I guess I had some self-belief at the time, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. But also like, I wish I would have known what was gonna come and how exciting the journey would be, because then I think it would have been even easier. And I guess I would tell myself to try to start making money as soon as possible. Because it's so counterintuitive sometimes, but like we always think that when we look at all these businesses and what they charge for, we always think like there needs to be so much behind a product to charge for something. I think that's also maybe a very European or very German perspective on this. We always want to over deliver, make everything perfect, and then, if you don't mind, maybe pay for this. But then I realized eventually, actually, just by asking for someone to pay for something, like especially when you build something like this, like the excitement of people to get involved, the quality of feedback you get, and how quickly you learn from your users because they're engaged, because they paid for it. That was a big learning for me. So I still try to do as much as possible for free and accessible to anyone. But I wish I would have already 4 years ago had like a premium access where I could really work with people more closely and understand their needs. And I think that's a massive learning. And I guess that's the biggest one. And that perfectionism. I mean, at the beginning, what we talked about earlier, at the beginning of building the company, I thought I needed to have the perfect data set. I was like, every company needs to be classified by the gender of the founders, by the tech they're using, their climate subsector they're in, and I want to have this perfect data set. And all day I was just classifying data with no employees. So I spent my time doing that instead of validating like the business case, instead of really focusing on marketing, the branding. I have a little note in my notebook, just to come back to your question a bit. It says self-belief, personal relationships. I'm forgetting the third one, actually. I'll maybe come back for that. And focus, focus. I think just just almost being like completely naive and just completely not ignoring, but like tuning out other people's opinions on what you're trying to build. I mean, at the beginning, I wasn't making any money. For the first 8 months, I built everything for free. People are like, this doesn't make any sense. Sometimes I had like a random user send me an email. Hey, I'm a marketer, and what you're building, your business case doesn't make any sense. Like unsolicited feedback. And it's easy to fall into that and be like, maybe like, does this even make sense what I'm doing? I figured like that this captures really well all you need to be successful, however you define success. Surround yourself with really good people. Focus relentlessly on one thing. At the beginning, I want to be a photographer and build this. It's a bit too much. Have that self-belief that, I'll figure it out. I'll make it happen. And those 3 things, I think, I wish I would have written them down 3 years ago.
I'm very happy that you're saying this here, because it's really beautiful. And we all need, and sometimes we take it for granted, and it's like, oh yes, I heard that so many times, but we need to repeat it to ourselves, and we need to see it.
Yeah, definitely. It's easy to forget it when you get caught up in all the just overwhelmed. If it's job search, if it's starting your own thing, becoming a freelancer, or making a career change, it's very overwhelming. And I'm also the first person who's trying to do it all on his own. Mm-hmm. And then realizing like, wow, there's so many amazing people around me who can help me with this and who are happy to help me. And then I'll help them with something else, down the road, maybe in a week, maybe in 2 years. And that's really so beautiful. You can do anything. You can put out some Instagram story and be like, hey guys, this is what I'm trying to build. Like anyone have any advice? And then your friends, your family, a friend of a friend often has the advice you need. So
I actually posted on my social media about accountability. It was talking about how we can rely on our friends, because I wouldn't be able to build this and to put this video for you guys if I wouldn't have my friends, right? Giving me the location or giving me the tips of how I should talk or what I should do, and asking this as well. Sometimes we feel shy about asking for help.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you've done this so much in your life, like putting the foot on the door, starting, being proactive, and I think this is all the attitude that we should have towards life, right?
Definitely.
But honestly, you deserve a huge applause for everything that you've done, for creating this amazing channel, for making opportunity for people to find something meaningful, and also to connect with such a great community that will bring them more close to what they want. And talking about this, how can job seekers, or how can founders, how can investors find you if they want to talk to you, if they want to advertise in your platform as a job, let's say? How can they find you?
Yeah, anyone can just send me an email. It's tim@inClimate.com. I read all my emails myself, and to this day I also answer all the user feedback, all the questions. People want to be in the newsletter. I don't really believe in hiring someone to do all of that. So yeah, if anyone has an idea or a question or feedback, or maybe I should add people, then just send me an email. Tim@inClimate.com, or ping me on LinkedIn, and just join the community. We have a weekly call. It's called the Climate Coffee.
Okay.
Anyone can join. We do a little intro circle.
I'm gonna be joining next time, guys.
Yes, you have to. You have to. Every Wednesday afternoon after lunch, people join with a coffee, and we just casually get to know each other. People can ask questions, and just kind of start to get a feeling for, hey, what is this climate thing about? And then they can follow up with some people in the call and have some one-on-one chats. And I think that's always a great way for people to get involved. I'm always there as well. So if someone wants to just see me in action, connecting folks, it's really open for anyone. And I think that's the main thing, right? That I'm trying to bring across, just that anyone, no matter if they don't know what climate means or they're an absolute expert in something, doesn't matter. Like, it's really anyone can incorporate that in their life, in their career, in how they invest their money. Little decisions. It doesn't need to mean you need to quit your job. So I think it's really a cool community to be part of, and just to connect with some really nice like-minded folks who are crazy enough to want to do something good. And
could be just a way to start as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And to get into that.
Yeah, or just to explore, to have some chats and be like, this is not for me, Okay, that's also fine.
Tim, I have something for you. And I made it before our meeting, actually, but I think it goes really, really well.
What is this?
The same with what you've been doing. So open it, and I hope you like that.
Let's see.
The color goes with your eyes as well.
Nice. Okay, I'll show that here. Clarity over chaos. I love that. I
don't know why, but it suits really well
and
now.
The toucan and the flowers. Here you go.
Very tropical.
It's
for you.
Hey, thank you so much. That's lovely, man.
Hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Honestly,
this is great.
Thank you for this meeting.
No, of course.
I love it. I was so looking forward to it. My stomach was hurting. I was so anxious, and when we talk about imposter syndrome as well, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing?
But we all have that. I think that's a good reminder when you start something, is like, the guy that I admire that is super successful and has been building something for 20 years, like that guy had or still has imposter syndrome. Everyone does. And so I think it's a good reminder that people that you look up to go through the same shit. And I think we're all in that together.
Thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for watching one more episode of Run Chico Sober. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please comment, subscribe, send me your tips, and if you have any recommendation as well, I'm more than open. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.